Yes, great. Tell us a little bit, I know we're a little bit short on time, but we'd love to hear a little bit more before we get some questions from the audience. Tell us a little bit about the background. You said before you started, this was a love story to Peru. And,
yes.
And we see that, and they always say, what does it say, that the way to somebody's heart is through the mouth, the food.
Their stomach.
She was on that as well. So tell us a little bit about the story idea, how it came about, and all that.
That's certainly true for me. I'm from Peru, of course, and so is the writer and director, Ricardo de Monteil, who wishes we could be here and sends his best to everyone. And he and I met about 8 years ago, as I have been producing film, independent film, for about 15 years, when I started Seeing Pictures, a production company in Los Angeles. And we traded ideas back and forth for several years, even as I, on my own, was also exploring when and which story to tell in and or about Peru over the years. This is the 11th feature film that I am a part of as a producer and executive producer. And when Ricardo first sent me the first draft of this screenplay, it was clear to me that this was the one. It, at the time, could have been 10th, but became the 11th feature for me. And my previous work has been very varied and taken place in different countries. I've worked in Brazil and Mexico and Europe and North America. And it's been really special to go to my home country and be able to bring this story increasingly now to the rest of the world. In fact, as I advanced warned you before the film, we're soon to announce a US distribution. So if you enjoyed the film, we are on social media, Mistura Film, follow us, and we'll be announcing when and where you can watch it again, or you can send your friends and family and enemies if you want to come watch the film in theaters, which we will be in theaters as films are best experienced like this in a community where we get to not just see the film but experience it together. I think that's really special as well. This film, as you saw, takes place in 1965 Lima, and the process of making the film started with hiring a team of historians to put together a Bible that explores everything to do with 1965 Lima, from the expressions and idioms to the hairstyles and wardrobe. And we're very proud of the work of all the artists who put together the look and feel of this film.
And the acting was spectacular. I was standing in the back with you and I was saying, the lead role, the lead actress, she was phenomenal. You mentioned she won several awards for this.
Phenomenal, yes.
Yeah.
Barbara Mori.
Yeah.
Barbara is a great actress. She was born in Uruguay and raised and lives in Mexico, which does not naturally lend itself to have the accent of a high society woman from Lima in the 60s.
Right.
So this required not just the work that an actor always has to bring to the table to portray a character and live in the story, but also to do the accent work. And she worked with an accent coach named Oscar Beltran, who did a great job, to put together the specificity of this accent. The cast, as you well mentioned, it's a great cast, and it's complemented by actors with a lot of weight and experience, like Christian Meyer, who plays her husband, who in this film I think we all enjoy hating. And having gotten to know him in real life, opposite of the character, that gives you also the range of the actor, right? And he has also been recognized in various arenas. In addition, there are some other parts of characters in our cast who are portrayed by experienced actors, like Rosa, the maid and cook in the house. She's portrayed by Hermelinda Luján, an experienced actress in Peru. She's been a part of some of the local films that I love the most, like Wilak Pirka, where she plays a grandmother to the same actor who portrays her grandson in this film, except he was in the previous film about 8, 9 years younger. So he was a little kid,
Right.
and we got them to, rekindle their grandmother-grandson fictional relationship for this film, as well as the waiter in the restaurant is played by Junior Bejar.
And you had a cameo in there as well.
Oh, yes, and I know everyone is very curious to hear about the doctor, should I say the handsome doctor.
How long did it take to from the idea and the writing to production and getting it out there?
Every independent film takes a village and faces a lot of challenges to overcome, and it's a labor of love in many ways. In this one in particular, some would say had a great producer. But no, it all happened relatively fast, and even the instances where our plans didn't come to fruition immediately or as we intended, the alternatives that presented themselves somehow found a way to make the film better than had our plans come together. For example, Hermelinda Luján was not our first cast for Rosa. And we had another actress who is also Peruvian. She's about maybe 30 years younger. And when she became unavailable very last minute and Hermelinda stepped in, it changes the dynamic of the characters, and specifically as Norma, or Barbara's character, when she dismisses her from the home, she's firing a woman who has been there longer than she has with this change of cast. So it adds a different weight that is one of these gifts of our plans not working out as we intended, but somehow getting a stronger film for it. I think it's also very much worth mentioning the chef in the film, Raul. He is a real-life chef, played by Tomás Matsufuki. And Tomás has a restaurant in Peru, a very popular one in Lima, called Al Toque Pez, that if you ever go to Lima, be prepared to stand in line, but it is worth it. It's very...
Can we say we know you?
it may help. But he was featured in Netflix's Street Food in Latin America. So if you go home, watch Netflix, watch that show, the episode on Lima, about half of it is about him and his restaurant. And then there's another piece of trivia that is very much worth mentioning about our cast, and that is that one of the other main actors in the cast, this was his very first role. And when I tell you who it is. Cesar Valleumbrosio, who plays Oscar. And so we worked with him for about 6 months with an acting coach leading into this role. And one of the reasons that we went in this direction, which of course is a big risk to go with an actor that doesn't have the experience and giving them a lead role with so much work to do, is that he's very charismatic, and he actually, the real Cesar Valleumbrosio, he is a musician, just like the character, from a family of musicians, just like the character. And in fact, his family, the Valleumbrosio family, if anyone here is from Peru or has been there, is emblematic of Afro-Peruvian music, more than any other name in the country. And they have been for generations. In fact, when we first cast him, my mom, who is here today, and my dad, she remembered seeing him when he was 5 years old, dancing on TV. So he has been a performer all his life. And I think somehow he has an internal map of the performance that he has honed through years of performing music that lent itself really in a special way for acting, where he was able to keep all of the notes that were given take after take without losing any of them. And that's a very rare gift, because I've acted a little bit myself, as you saw in the doctor role. And it is overwhelming, and you can get sucked into the role and the moment, and then you forget the direction that you were given half an hour ago, 7 takes ago. But somehow he mapped it all and he put it all together, and
It was great.
it worked really well. So he's his first role, everyone.
Yeah.
And then to open it up for a break, I don't know if anybody has any questions they want to ask. I can hand over the mic.
We have about 6 minutes before
Okay.
we have to head, according to the festival schedule.
I got picked, I got selected.
Yes.
Nice. Thank you very much, very good film. Brought back a lot of memories. In fact, I recall a tear coming down out of my eyes. The special effects of Costa Verde was very, very well done. At 65, I was 3 years old, so obviously I don't remember, but it was well done, considering that now we have the beaches and the highway and things like that. Who did that part of the special effects?
Yes.
Especially by the lighthouse too, that area has changed quite a bit.
Yes, the framing of it all comes from our director of photography, Nicolas Wong, who did a spectacular job. He's Peruvian born, but he's more known for his Central American film work, including shooting all of the films of director Jairo Bustamante. In the film itself, all of the VFX are done by a house in Lima called Macaco VFX. Diego Velázquez is the lead VFX artist. He has done many films in Peru and is starting to do more international work as well. We had a drone operator for those shots. We shot the actual coastline as it is today.
Yeah.
And then on the VFX, we
Okay.
switched it to what old photographs show from the time. In addition, it's, I think, interesting. We are the first film ever made in Peru that had a virtual production component to the shooting of the film. Virtual production is a technique that was developed by the Star Wars TV series The Mandalorian, and it replaces traditional green screen technology. So instead of shooting the scene with an actual green wall behind you and then filling it up after the fact, what you do is you digitally create the background before you shoot, so that when you're shooting and you have the actors and the director, everyone there, people don't have to imagine what it's going to look like and what they're interacting with in their minds, but we can all see it. So you put up giant LED screens in a semicircle, and that encompasses the whole space of your set, so that the actors are surrounded by the real world you're going to see in the film. And in fact, every time that you see driving in the movie, we're actually stationary, surrounded by those screens. And there is a team called the La Escena Virtual, and they recreated several streets of Lima as it was in 1965 before we started shooting, so that in those scenes, through the windows as the car is turning, we mapped out the routes that they would be driving and recreated the streets to follow them through those routes. So a little bit about VFX.
That sounds expensive to me. How did it go in terms of budget for an independent film? I'm sure that was tell us a little bit about that.
We've had a chance to show the film to some industry people in the US, and I'm always curious to get estimates of budgets from people who are very learned and experienced in filmmaking, and they'll watch it and estimate what the budget was.
Fine.
And as the producer, I am proud that almost without exception, they estimate about 2 to 2.5 times what the budget actually was.
That's great.
Yeah.
Not bad.
So we tried.
Yeah.
We tried. Also, we're the first film ever made in Peru to work with a professional food stylist for film, of which there is one in Peru, and she had never been hired locally before.
Oh, wow. Anybody else have any questions before we, back over here.
First of all, beautiful film. I have a question. There were some old clips in black and white. Were those created for the film, or are those actual clips?
Those are all stock footage licensed for the film, and with the exception of the young girls that is kind of like the dream / memory of Norma, the character, while she's unconscious. Everything else is from the 1965 Lima. In fact, the World Surfing Championship did happen in 1965 Lima. It was won by Felipe Pomar. The footage we see is him celebrating. The footage we see of the military and the presidents, all of that is real footage. And it was the intention of the film that, yes, we are living a little bit in the bubble of Norma's world, but we also get glimpses of the real world behind it and beyond it. And that's where the headlines from the newspapers, we worked with El Comercio, which is the paper of record in Peru, like the New York Times is in the US. And they helped us recreate all of the real headlines of the time that we use in film. Of course, there's 2 that were made for the film that are about her husband in it. No? Everything else is historically correct. And we had them, or they helped us get those printed in the same format and type of paper from the time. So that there's a lot of attention to detail in the film that is meant to help us be really anchored in the reality of the moment, even as the story itself of our fictional characters is an original story.
You have another question over here.
One last one, thank you. It was wonderful. So, you said you're going to be distributing in the US. What about Europe? Because I live in London, so I'm hoping that it comes to London.
Oh, we're working on it. I shouldn't make news, but we're definitely working on it. So in a couple of weeks, we'll be announcing at least one more territory that might make you happy about the film's distribution.
Ivan, thank you so much. There's a few more questions I know that people want to ask, and we can come up to you afterwards and chat with you. And everybody else, we're heading over next door. If you can join